Hey everybody, welcome back to BFD. That's right. BFD stands for duh. And if you think that was quality content, wait for the rest of the video. But hey, we're here to review the movie Kingdom of the Planet for the Planet of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now let me just get this right off the bat. If you are new to the channel or have just happened to not see the last few videos that I made, I'm a big fan of Planet of the Apes. I love the original movies and all their weirdness, and I love the rebooted prequel trilogy that came out in the 2010s, late aughts. I like them a lot, so there's a really high bar for this series for me. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this movie, it was fine. I have a few reasons I think why the film might not be as great as its predecessors, but at the end of the day, I'm almost left wondering, do I just hate new things? Because it is kind of hard to put your finger on what exactly makes this film not as good as the last two that came out before it. But I think I have a few answers to that. Let's start off with the positive. The visuals look pretty good all around. The apes look just as photorealistic as they did back in 2017. The performances are all really good. I never was like, that's a guy in a mocap suit. I was just like, that's a pretty humanoid ape, which I guess is what they're going for. And in that case, good job, actors. I also thought the use of music was pretty good all around. I liked when they're crossing the bridge towards the middle of the film, and there's a lot of similar looking things as to when the humans first entered the ape territory in the original movie, and you hear kind of that weird otherworldly sounding music track on it, and it's very uneasy, and yeah, I thought that was good. I thought that was a good little bit of nostalgia bait for those who are deep ape heads, I guess that's the name for us. I think, you know what, we spent way too much time on the positive. Let's get to the negative. This is BFD, alright? Okay, I really do think that the worst part of this film is that there is an obvious character arc for the main character, and they don't give him an arc. They just give him a journey to go on. Now, and this is not necessarily something that can't be done, but I think in the way that this film is set up, it's clear that they want their main character to be different than he was at the end. And I think he is, kind of, but it's that kind of that really makes the problem really paramount. Or should I say 20th Century Fox. The character arc as it is set up is that his dad should have had something to tell him that would have changed the way that he viewed the world. Let's say he's a bit naive, which he appears to be. He doesn't like the humans, but he likes his way of life, and he doesn't really know why he doesn't like the humans, but he's like, stay away from them, and the elders say to stay out of the forbidden area, because that's all bad. Then inciting incident happens, the apes come in and they trample his village, kill his father. His father's not able to impart this great wisdom onto his son, because his father should be like a real integrated ape. So long story short, over the course of the film, as he meets this human person, as he learns about the true Caesar, as he integrates all this information that completely changes the way that he views his life, by the time the third act happens, he should be integrating what he has learned to beat the bad guy. And they kind of do that with the bird, and I'll talk about that in a second, but he didn't learn anything. And yes, I understand the main character learned things, but he didn't learn anything about himself. He learned the history of the apes and the humans, but he didn't learn what he needed to grow as a person. His character is very curious about the nature of the world. He's very scientific, but that's all the information he's learning. He's not applying this knowledge in a way that changes his behavior. The greatest bit that we get of this is that he sees pictures of apes being locked up in this children's book, and he goes, oh man, maybe I can't trust the humans because that's what the bad apes have been telling him all along, not to trust the humans. And then by the end of the movie, he basically comes to the realization of, I don't know if I can trust you. Thought I did. I kind of want to, but you done some things that are messed up and I don't know if I can trust you. And the human says, I don't know if I can trust you either, but we'll see what happens. And I think that's fine because it's clear that they're going to set up more movies to come out of this, maybe another trilogy, which is fine. And I like how that ends up as a concept, but again, I don't feel as though the main character really changed. And I know that's kind of a long-winded ramble on the topic, but again, I thought the arc is actually really obvious. And if they wanted him to end up like he was at the end of the film, which again, I think is fine. I think that's great. And that has a lot of fodder to play with in the sequels, but he should have been different at the beginning. He is pretty much the exact same character from the beginning and the end, only now he knows real history. And I just don't think that that's enough. And like I said before, the eagle, this whole metaphor of the eagle kind of following him and reminding him about his failure to protect his father, I think that's great. I wish there had been more of a dynamic between him and his father, because what we get is that him and his father don't quite get along, but they kind of like each other, but we never find out what it is that his father didn't fully like about him or accept in him. Again, because there's nothing there at the beginning to change from the end, but the eagle representing this looming shadow of regret for not saving his father, that's awesome. That's great. And I like that he tries to bond with it and he can't. And it's not until right before the third act, the break into two, when we get him, boom, eagle time, baby. And then he uses the eagles, to beat the bad guy. That's great. But again, it has nothing to do with his actual change. It's just that now he's ready to bond with the eagle. Why? So again, it's weird. It's like, it's not bad, and I enjoyed a lot of it, but at the end of the day, I'm like, what? The main character didn't change. Or at the very least, he didn't have strong convictions beforehand that were kind of put to the test over the course of the film, right? Like in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Or War, for that matter. If this is going to be the main character of our new trilogy, I'm worried that there is not enough complexity and depth there to carry a whole trilogy. That can change. He can be kind of rewritten a bit different in the next one. Just time jump a few years, and you can more or less have him be a more complex and developed character. Nobody would really notice. But again, it's not a bad movie. Like, it's really not. Like, I enjoyed a lot of it. I was having a good time watching it. I liked being back in the world, even though the world building no longer makes any sense. I was under the impression that the prequel soft reboots still kind of took place in the world of the first Planet of the Apes movie. Like, I get it, like, nuclear war doesn't quite happen in those films, and that's fine. But again, I assume that we were trying to get to that end point where we essentially have the humans being rounded up by the apes. We essentially have different ape society, like class structures and everything. And the original movie could kind of stand on those prequels since they take place like 1,000 or 2,000 years, before. This film, it's still possible that we could wind up in that original scenario, but this film is kind of weird. It's like these humans live in a base underground despite a variant of the original virus being the one to make them mute. So I guess they've been there since the end of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and that, I don't know. It's just weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Maybe they'll explore it a little bit more. I was expecting this movie to be more about apes and less about humans, but I guess if your main character isn't strong enough, you kind of have to pull in more plot and less story, which is a shame because there's a lot of story potential that could be in these films. I like the idea of different. They're kind of in like early antiquity the apes are at this point in the timeline, if you compare it to like human timelines, to where they're just now realizing that there are other tribes of people like them kind of around everywhere, and so there's some empires forming, taking those lands over and everything, and that's interesting, and that just about sounds right, since this takes place, I don't know, it says like a few generations later, but I think I read somewhere that it's like 200 years after War for the Planet of the Apes, so that sounds about right. And I like the idea that, you know, maybe as these movies go forward, they kind of can jump further and further into the timeline until we get to where the original movie was, more or less. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I mean, I'll take it over Madam Web. I'm sorry, that sounded really petty. Obviously, I'll take it over Madam Web. I'll take it over Barbie. I mean, I'll take it over pretty much every Marvel thing that's come out in the last while. Take it over pretty much every Star Wars thing that's come out in the last while as well. I mean, as franchise stuff goes, this isn't that bad of an entry. But anyways, I guess I need to rate this film. What would I give this? I think I'm going to pull a Jake and say that this is a solid 7 out of 10. I think it's better than just an average movie that I don't care about. That could be a little bit of personal bias in there, but I don't think it's good enough to be an 8. But hey, that's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes movies are better than average, but not that great. And you know what? That's fine. So hey everybody, thank you for watching this BFD movie review. Jake's got some video coming out later this month, and we've got some other movie reviews coming out as well. The channel is turning 2 years old in a few months, so that's pretty cool. Clap, everybody. I can't clap because the mic's in my hand. But other than that, if you would like this video, if you liked the video, and if you would subscribe to this video, if you think this is the kind of content you'd want to watch on a bi-weekly and sometimes weekly basis. And with that, I've been Kyle, and I still am, and I'll see you in the next video.